Alright, we're back with more ReZero. With the last video marking the beginning of this journey, I wanted to quickly thank you all for the support I received. It's a great way to start off this series, so I couldn't be more thankful. If you haven't watched it already, I recommend doing so before watching this one. But with the loop coming to an end, it's time to leave the capital behind for now and move on to our next venture. Without further ado, let's get right into Arc 2, Subaru Natuski's first week at the mansion. Arc 2 consists of 2 volumes, Volumes 2 and 3. An increase in content from Arc 1, but not by much. The nostalgia always hits me when I look back at the beginning of this series and realize that full arcs were told between 1 to 2 volumes. But don't get used to it though, because Arc 3 onward blows that out of the water. Don't even get me started on Arc 7 either. Point is, this arc is an increase in content, but it's still digestible for newcomers because it doesn't overwhelm the reader. Taking the size of the arc into account, Tap and Natuski in the afterword mention that if Arc 1 is the introduction, then Arc 2 is what you should expect from the series going forward. I personally couldn't agree more. We have 3 locations: the mansion, Arlem Village, and the forest next to Arlem itself. The deadline is also expanded from 1 day in the capital to 4 days and 4 nights in the second loop. Lastly, we have the enemies at play. There's the curse user in the village, and the 2 maids depending on if Subaru plays his cards right or not. A significant increase in difficulty compared to the previous arc because of the new factors at play. But this is what Subaru and the reader should expect. Every loop and obstacle is only going to ramp up in difficulty the more he involves himself with this world. Arc 2 takes what Arc 1 did and increases everything in scale. Where Arc 1 served to introduce us to the world, this arc looks to evolve the story by introducing new locations and characters while expanding on ReZero's history. But it's still way too early to throw the reader into the deep end, so while not as much as Arc 1, some handholding is still required. That's why I like how the world building is handled here. It gives us more while keeping it general because this is common knowledge in Nagunica, like the royal selection going on, the existence of the witch cult, or magic and its properties in this verse. All of this knowledge is being supplemented here because the capital didn't give us time or reason to dive into it. With the mansion's denizens serving as founts of knowledge, Subaru can quickly adapt to his new circumstance. But he is also given some circumstantial and more in-depth knowledge as well. Things like Rem and Ram's history, Roswell's magic, Amelia's involvement in the royal selection, and the mansion's role in this area. It's meant to plant the idea in our heads that this is more than just a temporary visit. Subaru most likely is staying here if he can figure out a way to live. The way information is given here isn't revolutionary, but it's important nonetheless. If Tape breezed past it, all we'd have is interesting characters with a lackluster setting. While it seems minor, it's crucial to investing the reader in the story. Speaking of, let's move on to the characters. ReZero is a character-focused story. Shocking, I know. We see a glimpse of it in Arc 1, as the connections Subaru made were the key to him escaping the capital. But something Arc 2 does well is provide an intimate setting for Subaru to interact with the characters introduced here. Life-threatening scenarios allow for characters to show other sides of themselves, as we've seen with Rem and Subaru. It's a side that, thanks to the nature of the story, we see a lot of. But its impact isn't diminished because of the strength in writing, and because of how it's contrasted by low-stress interactions. Mundane activities like Subaru and the maids doing chores allows for the same opportunity. Insight can be gleaned from the conversations characters have, like with the Oni story Subaru tells Ram. That level of intimacy is what allows certain moments to flourish because it's used as setup for later scenes. Rem killing Subaru in the forest hits hard because of all the time Subaru spent at the mansion. It feels like a betrayal of what he believed their interactions to be up to that point. Even if it was only for a week, he thought the connection they built was genuine. So to hear Subaru ask why they hate him and why they don't remember is absolutely gut-wrenching because we see it. We experience the same thing. That intimacy makes the pain salient, while other moments like Amelia comforting him is a necessary moment of reprieve. It shows that she took notice of his effort. No loop is the same, especially if Subaru takes different actions. So of course, no reaction will be the same either. If Subaru overworks himself, Amelia will take notice, and she'll be there for him regardless of the circumstance. This allows him a moment of vulnerability. She's the only consistent thing in his life right now. Her support keeps him grounded when he needed it the most, even if she doesn't remember. But it's enough to push him forward. That intimacy makes her support salient. Potent moments like these wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the time given to develop these characters. Another point I wanted to touch on was how Mouse-Colored Cat expands the character's lore by tying it into the world's history. With the twins, for example, we see their personalities, how they interact with other characters, and their motivations, but all that is influenced by their backstory with their Oni heritage. With these two specifically, we see something that the capital didn't dive into: discrimination. In Arc 1 we see a melting pot of races in the capital of Lagunica, but now that we're getting context in Arc 2, ReZero doesn't shy away from the rampant racism most races experience in his verse. We saw it with Amelia's mixed elven heritage, and we see it again here with the Oni tribe. There's more examples to come in later arcs, but for now our focus is on the Oni tribe. Due to what they experienced, Ram and Rem were shaped by their trauma in different ways, and it shows with how they handle this arc. Ram is a stoic individual with ego and a lazy side, but she cares for her close confidants like Roswell and Rem. She uses her brain to make up for the deficit of losing her horn in the massacre. Rem, on the other hand, is reserved, cautious, and hardworking, but she's very emotional. She uses her physical strength to make up for her not being as smart as her sister. These two survived the massacre and changed because of it. One embraced her new circumstances and evolved to meet the needs of her new life in the mansion, while the other regrets to try and support her sister in any way she can because she's racked with guilt. Roswell and Beatrice are also introduced here, but I'll save talking about them for a different arc. While they play important parts in the story, now isn't their time, despite how much I really want to talk about Beatrice. What I will mention is how the characters display their personality. A lot of them have unique traits that make them not only distinct from each other, but memorable as well. Some can be language-based, like Amelia emphasizing certain words,
すごく悪い子。
Beatrice with her I suppose and in facts,
お前は死ぬかしら。
and Roswell with his eccentricities. But it also bleeds through with the visual design as well. ReZero is fantasy, so of course the designs are going to reflect that. But despite that restriction, designs don't feel bland or repetitive. They accurately depict the era and the character's personality well. Granted, this is easier to notice when you watch the anime because of the medium itself, but the light novel's illustrations and design still carry that philosophy. Shinichiro Otsuka deserves his props for the job he's done and will continue to do for this series. It wouldn't be what it is without it. I didn't mean to dive into such a visually focused topic, especially for a light novel of all things. I do want to make a video on ReZero's designs in the future, so consider this a sneak peek, I guess. Anyway, let's get back on track. While the new characters like Ram and Rem get the spotlight, no one can take the crown from the king himself. Arc 2 is a great demonstration of his character so far, with his strengths and weaknesses being laid bare. Up to this point, Subaru has been depicted as a dork. He's a neat, almost annoyingly so. But of course, no writer would tip their entire hand during the first arc. That's why we see some deeper layers to his person in Arc 2 because of his unique circumstance with return by death. He's persistent to a fault, choosing to tackle everything on his own because he feels like he has to. While I understand he can't talk about return by death, he doesn't need it to succeed. It's a second chance, not a cheat code. Subaru still has to find a solution, and without overwhelming both physically and mentally this lupus, it's no surprise he falters. This arc shows him in a vulnerable state, as a scared teenager who acts braver than he is because he has to. Not his most vulnerable because good lord we'll see that later, but it's still pretty vulnerable. No one can blame him for that. The monstrosities and emotional turmoil is more than anyone should have to face in a lifetime. In spite of that, Subaru isn't alone. The efforts he's gone through to help people offered him that opportunity, and if they don't trust him, they see who he is through his actions and character. This is demonstrated when Subaru saves Rem in the forest, permanently changing her character for the rest of the series. Her guilt I mentioned earlier comes from her feelings of inadequacy. Her sister was a prodigal child, but she lost that status to save Rem. Her guilt causes her to live for Ram's sake as a replacement, but she always feels inferior no matter how much she accomplishes because her sister could have done it better in her mind. Even if Rem doesn't feel like this, Rem is still weighed down by it, killing her self-esteem. If anyone can understand his self-deprecation though, it's Natsuki Daniel himself. Subaru can speak to Rem about her feelings of inadequacy because he feels similarly. He gives her feelings a voice, but also gives her reassurance that she is her own person, to live for herself while still loving her only family. And if she can't do it alone, she can lean on Subaru for help. He helped with the demon beast in the village so he can manage with Rem as well. This is his strength, his ability to help and understand others, despite his inability to read a room. For a moment, he became the man he needed to be. Overall, Arc 2 in my opinion is the most overlooked arc in this series. It isn't a matter of quality because most people can testify to this arc's strengths. If it was, I would have been honest and told you all my issues with it. As much as I love this series, it isn't perfect. To me, it's not a quality issue, but a matter of positioning. With it being squished between Arc 1 and 3, it's hard to stand out between them. Arc 2 is definitely better than Arc 1, don't get me wrong. Arc 1, however, off of the virtue of being the introductory arc, has that leg up over Arc 2. It'll always be remembered for what it did for the story, since it's the arc that started it all. And when compared to Arc 3, it's just not fair because Arc 3 is one of the best in the series. Arc 2 is a good arc that improves upon its predecessor significantly, but as we'll see in the next video, Arc 3 is just a different beast. Arc 2 has its own story to tell, but in the grand scheme of the story, it also serves as connective tissue for the arcs around it. It feels like it makes the surrounding arcs better, but it also feels hard for it to stand out because of that. So it's respected for what it does, but it isn't talked about like its compatriots. With that being said, however, my opinion on this arc has definitely gone up as I made this video. Thanks to me reading the light novels, watching the anime again, watching the content, and writing the script, I've grown a fondness for this arc that I didn't have until this year. While it isn't my favorite, it's an arc that makes its presence felt because of what it does for the story, be it the characters introduced who play massive roles in the story, or the lasting effects the actions taken here have on the story. If this is your favorite arc, please let me know why down below. Everyone has their own perspective on these things, so I'd love to hear yours. Whether that be a favorite character, moment, scene, or volume, I'm all ears. And if this isn't your favorite arc, then I hope I could shine some light on it to where you at least be interested to revisit it, or you have a newfound respect for it. And with that, folks, I bring this video to a close. Thank you all for watching the second installment of this series. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Arc 2, and I hope to hear yours as well. If you have any criticisms or critiques about the arc or this video, please let me know. With that book closed, however, we look forward towards Arc 3 for the next video in the series. That one is definitely going to be an endeavor, so expect it to take a bit before it releases. Maybe a video or two in between, who knows. Stay tapped into the community tab though for any posts relating to said video. Until then, I am streaming Tsukihime still. I'm about halfway done with CL route, so I hope you join me for that and when I get to Red Garden as well. Links for that will be in the description below. Also, huge shout out to ReZero Database and the Fandom Wiki. They make these videos so much easier to make. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you all for watching again. I hope you all stay safe. I'll see you all in the next video. Jonah.
Will he perform when he has money right in front of him?